You are now listening to the IELTS podcast. Learn from tutors and ex-examiners who are masters of IELTS preparation. Your host, Ben Worthington.
Hello there, IELTS students. This episode is all about the writing marking criteria. And I want to look at this part of the exam because, well, not part of the exam, I want to look at this in particular because if you know what the examiner is looking for when they're marking your work, then you're going to have a better idea on how to score higher. So let's have a look at the 4 components, because it's divided into 4 for the writing task, and we'll look at them. I'll give you an explanation, and then I'll give you tips on how to improve for that specific section. And just doing this will help you boost your score. Now then, so the 4 components are the task achievement, that's for task 1, and task response for task 2. Then we've got coherence and cohesion, lexical response, and grammatical range and accuracy. Let's have a look at the first one, task achievement. And this is for task 1. So let's have a look at task 1, academic. Now, do you answer the question being asked? Okay. So are you, are you given details of the key features and the trends and the differences? Now, I've said before in previous podcasts, and just in case you haven't heard that before, then what this means is, can you give an overview of the picture? Can you sort of step back and just see what is happening? Can you identify a trend? And this is quite difficult to explain audibly. If we were in a class, I would be able to just sort of give you a graph and just say, look, this is the overall trend. Okay? But if it was a line graph, usually it's going in one direction, or usually there's a trend happening. Is it going up overall? Is it going down overall? And is there a key feature? Did it peak in 1 year or in one period, or did it did it bottom out in a certain period of time? So that's for a line graph. If we're looking at pie charts, usually there'll be maybe one section that's sort of the biggest section, and that's sort of the key feature in the pie chart. Look for the one that's the majority, okay? And then also look for the one that's the minority, or the smallest and the biggest. Doing this will not only allow you to use the superlatives, okay, the largest section is, the smallest section is, and you'll pick up points there, but you're also a step closer to picking out the key features. Now, if it's a flow chart or a map, then now it's getting a little bit trickier, but what you want to do is sort of identify the key objective of the flow chart. Okay, so maybe it's a tea making process, and in the tea making process, what is the beginning state and what is the end state, and what are the main processes in between to get there? Okay, and a good exercise is to try and give a summary in one sentence. Now, task achievement for task 1 in the general task is much easier. What you have to do is just basically follow the bullets that it's asking you to do, that it's asking you to write about, and then put those in that order. So it might be, write a letter of complaint to your local council over roadworks in your street. Mention the duration of the problem, the inconvenience caused, and what you would like to do about it. In this one, it's really easy. You've got your structure there, okay? And you just, when you're planning your writing, make sure you've got those 3 points covered, the 3 bullets, and it will be much, much easier. Now for task 2, this is the one that a lot of people have difficulty with. This is one I get so many emails about saying, my mind goes blank. I don't know what to write about. This is too complex. I'm overcomplicating it. I don't know what to write about. I don't know what the examiner wants. This is very common. So what I recommend doing is to get full points on task response is analyze the question, break it down and look what the examiner is wanting from you. Underline parts of the question. Circle key verbs, key words in there. And usually, and if you're following the sentence guide, what I teach in there is that we want 2 body paragraphs, and we're going to do a 4-paragraph essay. Introduction, body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, conclusion. So if you're following that structure, you want to get 2 key ideas from your task 2 question, but make sure you are getting those ideas directly from the question. So double check that your ideas correspond to the question, because it's so common just to go off and start thinking about things that you think are related. Okay, so it's just double check and triple check, especially if you've had your work corrected in the past and the person who corrected it and gave you the feedback has said you've gone off task response. Okay, so if you know that's a weakness of yours, what you need to do is get a lot of task 2 questions and then just start practicing your essay planning skills. Okay, and what you can do is get a list of questions, write out plans or ideas for each of those questions, and then get your tutor or get an IELTS professional to look over them. And this is a key module that we do in the sentence guide. And we do this, the student and myself, or the student and one person on my team, the student will send in their ideas, their plans for a list of questions, and we'll look over them and we'll see if you've got the right idea. Okay, because it's fundamental, because if you start off wrong at this part, then it's going to be difficult to score points for the rest. Okay, well, it's going to be difficult to score points for task response. So, and this is easy. It's not even that much to do with language. I mean, you've got to understand the question. You've got to understand the terminology used in the question. But even then, it's not the most difficult component of this section of the exam. Okay, it's not as difficult as getting your grammar perfect or employing a wide range of vocabulary. Okay, so it's a really easy part to boost your score. And it's so sad when I see students who've got excellent writing skills but are losing points on this part because, like we said, it's more sort of like, it's more focusing on the question rather than challenging your language skills. Okay, so that's fundamental. Get into the habit and double check and triple check that your ideas and the way that you're going to build your paragraphs and the way that you're going to answer the question, before you even start answering it, before you even start writing your paragraphs, make sure that you're on the right track. Okay, and maybe you're like Deborah and you overcomplicate it, and in that case you'll need a system just to getting your ideas focused. Or maybe you can't think of any ideas, in which case there's a module about this where you just basically, I think I've mentioned it before in previous podcasts, but there's a special focused module on this in the sentence guide, and you just build your idea generation skills, and then you can fit them in the framework, and it becomes so much easier. Now then, here's just a few other pointers for your task 2. So remember to state your opinion in the introduction. This just gives you guidelines, gives the examiner ideas and gives the examiner a clue or guidance as to where you're going to go with the essay. So there's no nasty surprises there. Okay. Make sure that you flesh out your opinion in the paragraphs. So make sure that it corresponds to what you said before in your introduction. So for your introduction, don't start writing about, nuclear power in France, and then in the next paragraphs talk about, fracking in the United States or oil production in Saudi Arabia, because it just doesn't correspond. Okay? Now, and make sure as well that you're on the word count. Okay? Too many students write over the word count, and it's absolutely ridiculous because the examiner will stop marking at 275. So you need to know how many words you're writing per line, and then write that amount of lines for your exam. Okay, so coherence and cohesion. This is the second component, and basically, if we're going for a band 7, what you need to be doing is logically organizing your information and the ideas. So this goes back to having a rock solid plan, as we mentioned in your task response, because not only is it going to help you with your task response, it's also going to help you connect these ideas. Okay, and here's a very valuable tip. It's not the quality of your ideas. It doesn't matter if they're really intelligent and groundbreaking, because you're not getting marked for the quality of your ideas. You're getting marked for the quality of your communication. Okay, so this is why I teach in the sentence guide, go for simple ideas eloquently expressed, because complex ideas are harder to express, and it's more likely you're going to trip up, fall over, and you're not going to get any extra points for trying to express complex ideas. Okay, it's just going to make your paper harder to read. Okay, next idea. Clearly progress from one thought to another. Okay, and the way you do this is you use these connecting devices, like on the one hand, on the other hand, firstly, secondly, thirdly, furthermore, in addition. Okay, but make sure you use these correctly and don't stick them all in. Okay, use about probably about 3 or 4, and maybe in your main body paragraphs, perhaps in your conclusion as well, but don't try and stuff them in there. Okay, use them sparingly, use them when they're necessary, and it will sound much more natural. Now, another point, present a clear idea. Okay, and I teach trying to limit it to 1 idea per paragraph, because if you and this goes back to simple ideas eloquently expressed, because if you try and put in 3 or 4 different ideas, not only is it difficult to read, okay, it's not coherent, because if you write 1 sentence about Saudi Arabia, then another sentence about France, and then another sentence about new green energy developments in general, it's not logically progressed. It's not logically organized. Whereas if you talk about the dangers of nuclear power, and then you talk about France, and then you give an example, can you see it's all structured and it's all focused? And here's a tip one experienced tutor once told me, and that was, go from general to specific. From general to specific. Okay? And that's a good tip, not just for IELTS essay writing, but for academic writing in general. Now then, some more points just to help you boost your score. Plan before you write. Okay? Get a few keywords down there on your paper just to help you organize your thoughts and keep your focus. once again, go back to the question, check that your ideas and the paragraph that you're planning is going to correspond to the question. Okay. And then once again, use those words furthermore, moreover, firstly, secondly, and also, final one, get your punctuation under control. Okay. In English, you can lose the idea of the sentence just because you've placed commas and your semicolons in the wrong place. Okay, so make sure that you've got that under control. And I'm pretty certain there's lots of online quizzes, so you don't even need a tutor to help you with this. You can just jump online, put comma quiz ESL, or semicolon quiz ESL, or punctuation quiz ESL. And if you do lose points on this, if you know that this is a weak point of your writing, then jump online and get it done and get it sorted. Okay, 10 minutes a day is really nothing compared to having to take the test again and having to go through all the process of your preparation, taking the time off, organizing your time and all this. So get it right first time and get it under control. Now, the way you're going to know that you've got problems with punctuation is, one, take a test, obviously. Take a test online, one of the free ones, or get feedback on your work, and then you'll know exactly where to focus on. Okay, so if the feedback says focus on punctuation, focus on vocabulary, focus on cohesion and coherence, then this is going to speed up your preparation, because you're going to pinpoint the areas which need attention instead of just focusing on everything and making slower progress. Now, the next one is lexical resource. Sorry about that. A lexical resource is your vocabulary, okay? The range of vocabulary. So, and your use of vocabulary. Are you using it correctly? Okay. Now, I was talking with an online worker just a few weeks ago, and I wrote a list of instructions to them, and they responded because they didn't understand my instructions, and they responded saying, "Can you be more verbose, please?" And I was like, what? And verbose means using a lot more words than necessary and actually clouding the what you want to say. So what he was asking for was basically the opposite of what he wanted. Okay, and that's a very useful way of saying, not very useful way, but it's just a good example of how inaccurate vocabulary can have the wrong meaning. Okay, so if you do want to use extensive vocabulary and you do want to improve your vocabulary, make sure you're getting feedback, okay? Because when you're doing the exam, you want to be using vocabulary that you know you are employing correctly. And the way you do this is basically you've written essays before, and somebody's either said, "Well done, that's the correct use of that vocabulary," or "No, you've used it incorrectly in this terminology, in this sentence." And the way you can do that is get feedback. So you've got two options. You either play it safe and you use vocabulary that you've always used, but if you've failed the test before, then you may want to start learning more vocabulary and employing it. So the way that you start learning more vocabulary is, this is very quickly because we're going off topic now, but when you're reading, circle vocabulary, but just don't circle the exact vocabulary, circle the whole sentence or the words either side of it, okay? And then write a couple of sentences with that vocabulary and get some feedback on it, all right? And then another way to do it is, when you do write your essays, get some feedback, get some somebody to look at that. And also, if you do find in your essays that you're using the same words more than once or the same phrases, then that's a red light, because the examiner's seen it once, is giving you points. Then you use it again, the examiner can't give you points. Okay? So one way to avoid this is, once you've finished writing, look through your words, look through your essay, and try and identify words that you've used more than once, and then use synonyms to change them so you can extend your vocabulary score. Okay? And a very useful tip, in fact, is collocations. Okay? Getting a good list of collocations and using them together is an excellent way to do it. In fact, if you sign up for the IELTS podcast mailing list for the newsletter, there is one email that will get sent to you, and it's what you can do is sign up to the list, and you get that massive PDF with about 20 sample Band 9 essays, about 10 or 15 Graph 1 descriptions, Graph 1 academic Task 1 descriptions of graphs, pie charts and all that. And there's also a section called IELTS Vocabulary, where it gives you a list of videos and collocations from those videos. So not only are you going to hear that collocation, but you're also going to see it in front of you. And like I just said, collocations are a fantastic way to boost your score, and you're going to get a massive list of them. Okay, so that's in the PDF once you sign up, and that's completely free, so I'd recommend signing up. Now then, let's see. Oh yeah, one other way of improving your vocabulary, and this is for your preparation more so than in the exam, because hopefully you've done it so much in your preparation that you do not have this habit in your writing exam. But one way you can improve it is, so this happens especially in Task 1 academic, but you'll say, the graph below, the graph shows big changes between 1991 and 1992. And that's grammatically perfect, but the problem is it says big changes. And that's okay, but if we wanted to sound more sophisticated, we could say the graph shows significant changes between 1991 and 1992, or the graph shows an important change between the years 1991 and 1992. Okay, so what we do is just basically change the words big, small, bad, good, just basic vocabulary like that, and we try and upgrade it. Now, going back to collocations, going back to using vocabulary precisely and accurately, okay, we can say, let's see, instead of saying a big minute, we could say a long minute. Or instead of saying copyright rules, we would say copyright law. Okay? And this goes back to just getting a general feel for the language. And the way you get a general feel for the language is just by immersing yourself into it. When I was learning Spanish, I had to memorize so many things. And now when I speak, and sometimes I can, I hear myself speak and I think that doesn't feel right. And once you get to that level in your English, it's a good sign that you're ready to take the exam, and it's a good sign that you're getting a real feel for the language. Okay, final way to improve your lexical resource score is, once you've finished writing, you go back, you start from your conclusion and go backwards, because then you're going against the grain and your brain's not going to go into autopilot. And you go backwards and you check word for word, check for spelling mistakes. Simple. Simple, simple, simple. Okay then. Now, moving on to grammatical range and accuracy. So this is using a variety of complex sentence structures and producing error-free sentences and having a good control of your grammar and punctuation. Okay, so the way we can boost our score with this one, okay, is now if you've got your exam coming up in the next 10 days or the next 15 days, it's going to be quite difficult for you to learn complex grammar rules and complex sentences. So what I would recommend is sticking with what you already know and maybe focusing on your vocabulary, because that's quicker to improve rather than learning whole new grammatical rules and then experimenting with the grammatical rules. So keep it simple and keep it basic. Okay, don't take risks, and because the problem is with the grammar, if you mess up the grammar, it messes up it prevents the examiner from understanding what you're trying to say. And if they can't understand what you're trying to say, then the examiner doesn't know if you've actually answered task response, and you're also going to lose points in your cohesion and coherence. So this is why I recommend my students to play it safe and keep it simple when we're talking about grammar, okay? Because it's dangerous. You don't want to mess it up. Now, a faster way to improve your grammar is to get your essay corrected. Find out where you're losing points. Find out where the problem is. Are you losing points on using your articles correctly? Is it zero article? Is it a? Is it an? Is it the? And this is tricky. Are you losing points on third person singular? Okay. So actually spotting the mistakes and correcting your work, self-correcting it so the examiner doesn't have to, is a very, very quick way of boosting your score. Now, if you've got more time to prepare for the exam, and this is what the smarter students would say, I'm sorry, but it's true. If you're taking the exam with 3 months to spare, if you're taking the exam in 3 months' time, then you're on the right track, because that's plenty of time to improve. Okay, basically the longer the preparation the better, but I know that not everybody has this luxury. So what you want to do is use relative clauses. Okay, and the relative clauses are who, that, which, when, and there's a few more, and use these to impress the examiner, because they're quite complex. And what I would recommend is that maybe you write out about 10 sentences, or even better, if you can get a list of translations, okay, and maybe translate it from your native language into English, and then from English into your native language, and keep doing these translations with a specific focus on the relative clauses. And this is a really quick way, an effective way to get control of these, because you've got the answers there and you don't need a tutor. It's just a case of doing translation after translation after translation. Okay, now so we've covered the 4 points. Hopefully you found a lot of value in them, and what we're going to do now is just look at ways of boosting your score. Just a summary basically. So get feedback, okay? Get feedback from the essay corrector. Make a list of the mistakes you make, and the next time you write an essay, check for those mistakes. And also when you get your error list back, do some practice. If you know that you're making mistakes on articles or your spelling, then get online and do some of the online quizzes, or load up all the words that you're spelling wrong, load them all up into a spelling program. You can get apps for this, and work on that area. Okay, dedicate 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, or whatever, and try and get into the habit of improving your work, improving and practicing. And finally, on the exam day, when you've finished your writing, hopefully all of this will be second nature. So you've planned your essay, you've checked it for the keywords, you've checked it if it's answering the question, you made a rock solid plan, you've followed the plan, you've ignored any of the ideas that might have popped into your head while you're writing, and this is common. Then once you've finished your writing, you checked it for mistakes that you've made in previous essays while you were preparing, and you've gone through and you've just checked everything and you've made the corrections and you've looked for specific mistakes. And if you follow that, then you will find the whole preparation process a lot easier. Okay, so please follow those instructions. They do work. I know they work because I've been doing this for a long time. And if you want extra help, then you might want to consider signing up for the newsletter. Lots of goodies in there. There's even more tips, and you get that massive PDF for free. Yeah, it is for free actually. Or you can buy it on Amazon for something like 99 cents. And get it on the Kindle. And and also, if you want your essay correcting, just send me an email. Okay, I'm not doing it for free. I think I can do it for something like €1. It's either going to be me or the essay corrector, someone on my team. But it's the fastest way to improve, and it's very economical, and it'll basically just set you on the right track. Okay, so if you're struggling, and if IELTS is a bit of an obstacle, you know where to come. You've got me here. I'm helping. I'm here, and I want to see you get IELTS in 2016. All right. So all the best. Have a good day, and take action. Do something. Do something today that's going to get you closer to passing IELTS. All the best.
Thanks for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.